Hi guys, Tucker here with a new video, and this video we will talk about the tier list, the final tier list for 10.1.5 and probably for 10.1.7 because there are no real balancing changes except resto druid, which is I would say it will be a surprise if it's going to be good or not. I think it's not going to be that good because they get also a aura nerf, but anyways, we also have mistweavers that get buffed in Temple 1.7, but we'll have to see if it's going to affect a lot or not. But the Temple 1.7 will be a whole other video for me where I'm going to probably talk about the state of the game pretty much. But anyways, let's talk right away with the tier list. I'm going to try to keep it short and concise. I do not agree with a lot of my content creator fellows, but we'll have to talk about it step by step. Let's talk about Affliction Warlock. I think Affliction Warlock is still underwhelming in solo shuffle because it is a solo shuffle tier list, guys. It is still underwhelming. I feel like the ramp up is too slow. You can win if it goes into dampening, but that's pretty much the fault of the DPSs that actually don't know how to finish a game faster than an Affliction Warlock. I think it's not unplayable, and I think they need kind of a rework to feel a lot better. It's kind of weird whenever I'm playing on Wrath or on Classic, and I'm playing like an Affliction Warlock, that whenever I put 3 dots, people are actually running away or try to like grasp their life. And with retail, it feels like putting dots is not enough. You have to really maintain those dots throughout 3 persons and try to do drain souls at the right time without getting kicked, drain lives to actually survive and to do damage, and also just go for the goes whenever you can do that. But I feel like for me, it's going to be a beat your spec. It is going to be a viable one. You can climb with it. I don't think it's like superior to other specs at all. I think it's not the best warlock specs as some people may say. I think it still has like reliance on one school of spell, very easy to interrupt, and actually very easy to shut down if your healer is competent. Yes, they have an easier time versus a few specs, but that's for every single spec. Everyone has like the black cat and their nemesis, I would say, in the game, right? Arcane Mage, I feel like it's still one of the most tankier specs in the game. It's very hard to play though. I'm not going to say that it's easy peasy, but you can survive if you're a good Arcane Mage. You're pretty much never really the target because it's very awful to go for the Arcane Mage, especially if you don't have Purge on your team. If you have a Purge on your team, you can maybe make it work. But specifically, whenever you don't have a purge on your team, that it becomes very hard to kill an arcane mage. Their damage is still good, I guess. Their nerf on the mass invis is quite big, let's be honest. But I still think it is better than arcane mage, so I think it's an A tier spec. I have an A plus, so I don't know if I'm going to keep it, but for me, A plus is going to be close to the god tiers, I would say. Arms Warrior is for me a paradox. I think in 3s, it can work pretty well. In 2s, it gets countered by multiple specs. And in Soul Shuffle, it feels like you do not get the ramp up needed to actually survive versus a lot of those specs. If you fall into a caster lobby, which is quite often these days, you're going to feel miserable. There's just only like one caster which you can actually eat them alive, and it would be a Shadow Priest. Those Shadow Priests are not that quite often anymore. You see a lot of mages, a lot of elemental shamans. You see a lot of boomkins, like annoying, but like classes that are actually not that great for us. And for me, I'm going to say that it is going to be A tier. I don't know why people put it in S tier because they have damage. Yes, they have damage, but they have like again bad lobbies, and bad lobbies just means bad lobbies. I'm going to rank melees first, then range, then healers. So it doesn't mean that arcane is above or under arms. It just means that respectively, if they're melee, arms is currently the top A tier, for example. I don't know if I'm going to keep it like that. I think it's really stoppable. They have mobility, but again, most ranged casters have mobility. I think the ones that don't have mobility even have displacement. For example, Elemental Shaman, they can knock back 2 times. They can even static field totem if you want to be pity. So again, I play Elemental Shaman, so I don't have issues versus Arms Warriors, for example. Yeah, I think A tier. I think A tier is fair. I think A tier means that it is kind of meta. It is possible to play and to climb reliably, except if you're like facing a lot of castle cleaves, then you just eat the bullet and hope for a better lobby for you. But the good thing is about arms is they have a lot of good pairings, and that's a good thing. Assassination Rogue is going to be, wow. To be honest, I'm not the best assassination rogue by far. But I think their damage spreads and patterns are just not made for soul shuffle quite now, because a lot of those things, if you're putting like full row of dots and your ally decides to do a blind and removes everything, that's the worst feeling of your life. And that's not only the only thing, because in 10.1.5, whenever they were actually good, you already have that, but they actually had like instant great damage whatever they did. The death mark, that was like, look, if you're not reacting right now, you're going to die. Right now, if you're death marking, you still have some reaction time, and especially it's a long CD. You have to work around that. I feel like it's going to be a C tier spec just based on that. I don't think it's like great. They have kidney shot, they have blind, but I want to remind you guys, soul shuffle, people are constantly DRing enemies, and you cannot really rely on others to actually not stun their target. And for me, assassination rogue, even like with the kidneys, it just like some damage. It has a lot of ramp up. It is really a melee affliction warlock. The dots of assassination rogue does hurt more than affliction warlock for some reason, but it is just what it is. I can't wait that they are not forced to do mastery first and they can go back to haste. But for that they need like a whole rework. I feel like it's not worth to go haste whenever you're doing like 0 damage. So C tier. Boomkin, I think it's still S tier. I think it's really strong. I think Cyclone is just too strong. I won't ask a nerf like some people do, because Cyclone always functions that way. But you cannot you cannot nerf every single CC except Cyclone. So they need to compensate somehow, some way. Else they bring back a bit of those duration CCs that they nerfed, and they let Cyclone how it is. Or they nerf the haste on the Cyclone cast, so you just remove the PvP talent to reduce the Cyclone cast time. You just remove that and you replace it with something else. I don't care. But I think it's just frustrating to play against, because it is a nature spell and Boomkin is actually a multi-school spellcaster. So kicking Cyclone doesn't feel as good as kicking Cyclone on a resto druid, for example. So for me, it's going to be S tier, because they have damage, they have CC, and they have like possibilities to actually win games by themselves because of a root beam that is really well timed. You can really win games because of that. BM Hunter, I played a lot of Hunter. I feel like it's not as season 1. I think maybe because of the nerfs and the tier sets changes and such, I feel like it's just not as good as before. Is it true or not? I think BM Hunter is just not that good. I just think it's not that good. Like not that good as people say, like top of S tier or A plus. I do feel like it's still like decent, but trapping requires like a whole set of things going on in a game. You can be very annoying with your scatter shot. You can be very like, you can peel for a lot. Your damage is easy to do though. It's not the highest, but it's also not the lowest, and the rotation is really easy, so you can reliably do the same damage every single game. But I feel like BM Hunter, if you're thinking about it, I don't think like I'm scared of a BM Hunter. For me, it's going to be I'm going to put it in A tier for now, but I want to put it in B tier. I'm going to put it in B tier, guys. Again, it's a tier list. I might change while I'm doing the tier list, but I think it's on the same level as an affliction warlock for me. I'm just not scared of a BM Hunter, but maybe it's because of the classes I'm playing, right? There's always a bit of bias whenever you're doing a tier list, and I want to say it to you guys. People are saying that they have like the infused science about a tier list. They are out of their mind. People are saying that the one tier list that they made is the one true tier list. just doesn't understand that a lot of PvP activities are actually very biased, and do not get fooled about that. But hopefully my tier list is the less biased possible, but I know myself, sometimes I can be. For example, tanks. I'm going to rate tanks as other people, like other DPSs. For me, tanks are kind of viable right now. Blood DK, I think, is legit viable. It's really strong. I think people do not know. I never faced real Blood DK, but Blood DK, you can actually reliably climb. It does actually good damage with Death Strike. It cannot die, pretty much, except if you're like really focusing all the time and you have high dampening, it can die. But trust me, if a Blood DK knows that he is a target, he's going to play super defensively. Their tier set helps for that. The Death Strikes healing is very good. The Vampiric Blood is helping a lot. You have a lot of like damage reductions that you can apply to yourself. Your damage is actually not that crap. It's actually very good. You can actually peel for your allies with like AMS that you can put on someone else. You can also improve the damage of someone else by taunting with the PvP taunt, for example. Again, I think Blood Decay is slept on. I know that it is a tank. People do not like tanks, and people legit put tanks in D tier because do not play a tank in PvP. But I feel like right now, I changed my mentality where a tank is just a DPS, but is gimped. It doesn't have too much damage. It doesn't have too much CC. It doesn't have too much survivability either, depending on the specs they're facing. For example, Protection Warrior versus Casters is really crap. It's you gimp kind of yourself, but it has like a unique feeling towards it. Again, I played Blood Decay a bit. I played Protection Warrior a bit, even Protection Paladin. I think there is like a place where you can play them. I think Protection Paladin, the only problem is you're facing another Protection Paladin, so you're actually punishing the whole lobby. That's the feeling that everyone has. But Blood Decay, you're kind of a DPS spot, so I don't know why you're annoyed to face a Blood Decay. Either it's bad and you're going to win 4 rounds if you're a DPS, or either it is good and you have to just accept the fact that Blood Decay is good. So I think viable. I think it's very viable. I see a lot of people actually climb with Blood Decay these days. Brewmaster, I want to put it in C tier. It's not. It's underpowered for sure. It is killable for sure. The problem is, if you want to do damage as a Brewmaster, you have to be the target. The problem is, as a tank, you don't want to be a target because then you just die too quickly. There is like a build, again, it's very hard to explain it in a tier list. There's a build where every time you're going to dodge, you can have a proc of a Tiger Palm, and whenever you're doing a Tiger Palm with all the procs aligning, you can actually do 200 Ks. It does a lot of damage. I already tested it, it works, but the problem is you have to actually have melees on you to be able to dodge, first and foremost. I think you can also dodge spellcast, I think. I don't know. But I know that with melees, I do get those damages. And whenever there's a caster, I do not get those damages up. Also, like, Shadow Priests are like the bane of your existence. But anyways. I think Brewmaster is just underpowered. I think I would like to see tanks actually reworked as a utility DPS. Like, for example, Augmentation Evoker. But, of course, they tune it well. Not right Augmentation Evokers. But hopefully they do that. But I think Brewmaster is actually very fun, and hopefully they do get something going on for tanks, because then it would be better for the community to have more specs to play with, I guess, my opinion. Demonology Warlock, I think they are clunky for sure. I don't think it's fun. Personally, whenever I'm playing Warlock, I despise playing Demonology Warlock. But I know that whenever I'm facing with a Demonology Warlock, they kind of perform better than, let's say, the Affliction Warlocks. For me, it's going to be A tier. It has good damage. It has a setup that they can actually do it for themselves. They have CC. They lack an interrupt, unfortunately, but the stun can be seen as a interrupt from the Felguard. I think in general, it's kind of holding back by all the bugs that the pets can have. I would like them to actually rework Demonology Warlock to become themselves demons and to pump their own damage instead of damage of pets. But that's my opinion. I would like a change of that, but we'll have to see. Destruction Warlock, I feel like they're also A tier. I play destruction myself. I think it's very strong. I'm playing personally like half mastery, half haste. So I have enough haste to do a lot of chaos balls, and I have enough mastery to do actually like 180 Ks with chaos ball. And trust me, it hurts. And then you have like a lot of CDs lining, and you can do like even 200 Ks, which often is enough to kill someone. It has CC, it has multi-school, it has instant damage. It's not really reliant on CDs, so I think it's very, very fun to play Destruction Warlock these days because of how the meta is going on. But I don't think it's like on the same level as a Boomkin, for example. Devastation Evoker is, for me, still going to be a D tier spec. I'm sorry, I just do not buy the one-shot gimmicks. I think it's worse than Frost Decay, for example. I think Frost Decay has more reliance and they can do more things, for example. Devastation Evoker, it's really gimmicky. If you're not one-shotting, you're doing nothing pretty much. So that's actually a bit of a worse spec, in my opinion. It is really feast or famine, and for me, I don't like that spec. I don't like facing one. I don't like playing with one. I know that sometimes I lose versus one because they actually one-shot someone, and then I win all my games versus them because they cannot one-shot someone. So every time I'm like someone knows what's up with Devastation Evoker, they never die from them. Disc Priest is for me probably the one of the worst healers in Soul Shuffle, but I think still Resto Druid is probably worse. Again, that's my spoiler to you. I'm going to put it in wow. B tier or B tier? It depends. I'm going to put it in B tier, but it might go lower depending on the placement of the other healers. I want to put some separation between them, but I think I'm going to put B tier for now. Healing wise, it's not that bad. It's actually very bad. Excuse me. They don't have throughput, but they have damage. They have CDs, which again, pain suppression is one of the better CDs for healers in any case. If you put pain suppression on, let's say, Resto Shamans, trust me, Resto Shamans would be busted, for example, but they don't have that. Disc Priest, the problem is they don't have throughput. Their mana is not like it's actually very limited. Their damage is also not that good compared to other casters. I would say if you're playing like a Resto Shaman and you're playing very aggressive, your damage is very high compared to Disc Priest. It's actually very much pad damage what you have as a Disc Priest. You have to see the damage patterns. It seems that it is high because it's over a course of a match and it's like unstoppable because it's dots, it's sometimes a penance, sometimes a mind blast. But lava burst, for example, for a resto shaman can crit to 90k and crits automatically. So again, I prefer to do a 90k instead of like 9k times 10 over 10 seconds. I mean, but that's my opinion. Think this priest just needs a bit of a buff or a rework or something to be relevant. I think it's very hard to buff them towards S tier because whenever it's S tier, it makes other specs much lower. But it's also very hard to keep it at B tier because it's also a very high skillful healer that demands a lot of like APM, so action per minute, to actually be relevant. And it feels bad to be B tier because you have to put more efforts to it. Elemental Shaman, it's going to be wow. I think I'm going to put it in A+. I'm going to give out my reasoning. So everyone saw the one-shot possibilities as Elemental Shaman. So basically you're playing around crits, you're playing with Ascendance, and whenever you're playing with Volcanic Surge, which is the PvP talent, you're going to do insane amount of damage. Sometimes you can do 150k Lava Burst with Ascendance. You can have like 5 going on the same target and you can one-shot someone, 750k. You really can do that. The problem is everything needs to align and people should not like have their brain on. Whenever you see the pattern and you know that it is an Ascendance Elemental Shaman full crit, just survive, kick the Lava Burst, and try to survive. If you can't survive that, so you preemptively use CDs, you're going to win because they have to wait for 3 minutes to go back for a go. 3 minutes, like between 2 and 3 minutes, depending on if they take a few talents towards Ascendance. I think it's personally not the most fun playstyle. My playstyle is more reliant, which is either I play with Volcanic Surge, I try to cast a lot of lightning bolts, a lot of lava bursts, but I do not play with Ascendance. Or either I play like the normal lava build, which is instant lava burst, which still does a lot more damage because again it got buffed. It's with a lot of haste, and basically I do not cast. I do just like instant lava burst, and I can reliably win games because of that. So I'm going to judge it with my build because I think the one-shot build will be nerfed somehow, some way, because people like outcrying it. But I feel like it demands a lot of like effort to make it work. But anyways, and also it's stoppable, right? For me, it's going to be A plus. I think it's like still very strong. It has like good competition. It has like good lobbies. But it can also have bad lobbies. Elemental Shaman can actually have bad lobbies depending on who they're facing. Um, Again, if you're facing a mistweaver and he knows what's up, he can actually just dispel your flame shocks every single time. And whenever you don't have flame shocks rolling, your damage is going lower because you don't have lava surge procs. So that you have to play around that. But for me, A plus, it means that really this god tier. But you have other specs that are a bit better, but they are definitely better than the A tiers, for example. I would always prefer Elemental Shaman over Destruction Warlock in social. For example, if they are on my team. Um, Enhancement Shaman. Enhancement Shaman for me, it feels terrible currently. I'm going to put it in B tier. They nerfed the burst damage of Enhancement Shaman, which is known for. Enhancement Shaman is a burst machine. You're not going to kill someone, you're not going to destroy someone with consistent damage. Not especially on this game is not made for consistent damage. They want to do that, but it's not working. Enhancement Shaman is filled with RNG procs and RNG goes, and everything is tied in the talents. If you're playing like physical build, you kind of forego all the good damage that you can have with lightning bolts. If you're going for nature damage, your physical damage is like pitiful, and you're having no consistent damage, and you're relying on crits which you're not building for. I think Enhancement Shaman just needs a rework. I'm already for it. I enjoy Enhancement Shaman. I even made a guide about it. I think the nerfs weren't warranted. I feel like people are outcrying about RNG procs, which again, a sentence if it procs while you're doing like a blood fury, bloodlust, plus also a doom wins. Yes, you're going to get one shotted if you don't see it coming, but it's so easily seeable. If you have like any add-ons, it's actually super easy to see. If you have any eyes visually, a sentence is visually impressive. You cannot really miss that. If you're someone that knows how to play with an enhancement shaman, you are always going to CC them whenever they're going. And it's one of the hardest goes. It has a 1.5 minute CD on Doom Winds, 8-second duration. It's even lower than Pillar of Frost or Frost Decays. Personally, I would even say Frost Decay feels better to play right now than Enhancement Shaman. I played those both. I think Frost Decay feels better, and that is actually a bad thing because I think Frost Decay needs also a rework. So you see that's a threshold for me for when you have a rework needed or not. But anyways, I know that again, if you're a viewer of mine that loves my Enhancement Shaman videos, trust me, you still can climb, but you have so many bad lobbies, man. And if you cannot if you cannot win with burst, and it's already very RNG, but if you cannot win with burst, you're not winning with consistent damage. You're winning for attrition with healing and with hexes. But come on, you're playing a DPS. You're not playing a support DPS. You're not even an augmentation evoker, and it feels like you're less threatening than a augmentation evoker. Storm strike buffs are cool, but it's like slam. They can buff it to 100%, even 120% is still going to be not really impressive. The damage that it can produce. It's always impressive with like all the combinations of procs actually proccing on the same target, and then it does damage. But again, everything has to line up. But anyways, for all druids, I think it's A tier. Has a lot of AoE bleeds that they can play. They can also play like a single target build. They have Cyclone if again they're playing with the PvP talent. You can Cyclone and then get like a big um, Feral Frenzy on the enemy with like for example a maim together. Again, ramping up the damage. I think it's less reliant on Assassination Rogue, just in general because the bleeds are easier to apply than Assassination Rogue, for example. They have Berserk, which is one of the better like CDs in the game. I think in general, even without Berserk, you can still kill people and reliably be like the victor in social form. Has some good lobbies. It also has some bad lobbies. I think it's on the same level as the Arms Warrior. Fire Mage, um, it's glass cannony though. It's easy to kill, but they can actually do a lot of damage. A good fire mage, they are very slippery. It's very hard to actually stop. they have multiple schools. Again, polymorph, you want to kick that, but you also want to kick like a fireball. So you have to decide if you prefer to kick on fire or you prefer to kick on how it's called, on polymorph, on arcane. Sometimes they have even ring of frost again, so they have like reliably CC whenever they want. I want to put it in A tier still. I guess that some people can put it lower, but I think their damage is very high. They have good lobbies. They have also some bad lobbies, but I think if like someone has no purge, you can be very tanky, and you can really reliably do a lot of ignite damage. For me, it does more damage than affliction warlock ever would dream. For example, on dot damage, which is quite sad in my opinion. Frost mage. I think I'm going to put it in A tier as well. I think mage specs are good at the moment. I might be biased again, but whenever, again, I'm an arms warrior. What do you think? I think I'm always going to put like mages at least at the same height as arms. I would even put it higher, but again, I'm thinking about elemental shaman, which is really strong compared to a mage right now. Like in a lobby, elemental shaman is going to be having a good time versus mages. And boomings are like very annoying to deal with as a mage because again they have shapeshift, so you cannot really polymorph them away, and so you have to go for them. And anyways, I can understand, but I think overall mages are like in a good spot. Like they have like a lot of damage. They have like many good like lobbies where they can perform. Polymorph is not really a great CC, but it's still a CC that you can spam, and not a lot of classes have that. So again, I'm going to give them 8 here. I think I'm going to put arcane on top with maybe frost mage. Then you have fire mage. Frost DK, hot topic. I play Frost DK. I actually enjoy it. Might make videos about it as well in the future. Although, again, I'm kind of tired of the social for queues, and I'm actually playing a lot of classic right now. Frost DK, Frost DK, Frost DK. I think for me it's going to be viable. I think even more viable than Enhancement Shaman. Let me explain. I know that some people might put them lower. I understand. But if you play Frost Decay and you played Frost Decay before the buffs and you play Frost Decay right now, you do feel a difference. You can actually do a lot of damage even without Pillar of Frost. Pillar of Frost is still going to be the opportunity where you're going to use it to kill people, but you can actually set up a lot of stuns. Like every 30 seconds, you're going to AoE stun 4 seconds. It's a better leg sweep in general. It is dispellable though, so if the healer knows what's up, you can actually dispel it. But it is a very strong stun, and since it got buffed, you have, again, I'm testing a lot of builds. I don't know which one I'm preferring. You can actually play a Remorseless Winter build where you're doing a lot of damage with just like AoE. You can do a whole Howling Blast build with like a little Frost Strike damage, or you can go just straight up like again the usual build where you're going to all in on you obliterate and do some alright damage with Howling Blast and with Chill Streaks, of course. I think having stun every 30 seconds makes chill streaks goes a lot easier to go for. If you're missing a stun, that's not a problem because you will have a 30-second CD. You will have a 30-second CD to re-stun a target. So, and again, the duration of your stun, if I remember correctly, because I don't remember it, but if you're using Remorseless Winter, it goes on CD, and then for that amount of time, you get your Remorseless Winter. So it's a 30-second CD, but I think the uptime is like 30% of the match, so it's actually very good. So I think personally, I like Frost Decay. I want them reworked because I feel like Pillar of Frost is just not a good ability. They should just put it back on the kit and try to like go for something else. I think PvE is actually something that is actually keeping them out of the rework section because I think PvE wise they're good. I think I'm not PvE like with the breath build. I think breath is just not good in PvP, so that's a problem. But anyways, Fury Warrior, I am not okay with most Soul Shuffle tier lists. I don't see them higher than B tier. Their damage feels so sluggish. I don't know what happened, but they buffed Onslaught, which is good. They buffed Execute, which is good. But they nerfed Avatar. And I feel like Avatar is more a thing for Fury than Arms because you have Odin's Fury, which basically gives you a mini Avatar go every 45 seconds. can do that. I feel like the damage doesn't scale well into other like classes. I feel like Arms Warrior, whenever you're playing Arms Warrior, then you go for Fury Warrior, it feels so weird. And I already made a video about it. I think it needs a rework somehow, some way. I don't think Fury should be playing around dots. That's my opinion. Maybe you like it. I don't. I think Annihilation is a crap talent that you actually are obligated to go for. It's boring, it doesn't do too much damage. You basically take it because Raging Blow is just not good. Crushing Blow is just not good. It's a GCD that you're using for less damage than, let's say, a Bloodbath. Why use that? That's why you're taking Annihilation. Of course, you have good slam damage. I already critted for 160k, 150ks. That's cool. But I feel like in Soul Shuffle, it's just not performing. In twos, they're actually quite good. I play twos Fury, play Arms Fury. I think Fury I play Arms twos, I play Fury twos. I think Fury is a great spec for that because it's like less reliant on. If you get disarmed as a Fury, it's not the end of the world. While if you get disarmed as an Arms Warrior while you're bursting, it is really sad. But Fury Warrior is just not performing social. I don't know how or why. At least for me, it doesn't perform well. I'm full mastery by the way, so it's not like the damage is not there. It has damage, but it feels sluggish. So I don't know what's going on, but I feel like I'm going to put Fury in ahead of Frosty K because I know I'm going to get flagged. But in my heart, I feel like Frosty K is ahead of Fury. But um, I'm going to put it like this. This. I think Frosty K is stronger than Enhance. Garden Druid. I saw a few Garden Druids. Um, I can't have a real opinion about it because I don't play it. I didn't try it as well. But a few ones I saw because I saw like 2 or 3 since the beginning of the season. It has a lot of CC. They're playing like CC machines. It's really hard to actually kick a Cyclone of a Garden Druid because you know that there are other spells that you want to kick. So you actually eat a lot of like those kicks, and they are actually not that fast to kill. They don't do too much damage, but they can do some good damage. I'm going to put it in C tier because I feel like D tier it's reserved for other specs, in my opinion. But I think it's probably like this. Assassination Rogue is clearly better than those two, huh? But I would say tank wise, it's C tier spec. It's not easy to climb with. You can make it work, I guess, if you're playing like very supporty and you play. You can also off heal quite hard with Garden Druid. I already saw that. The healing done after the game is ended is actually very impressive, but the damage is not that good. So I'm going to put it in C tier. Havoc Demon Hunter, they got a few buffs. IBeam not being interruptible, like I said on the patch review, people were calling me crazy, but it is how it is. It's actually helping them a lot. The problem is there are a lot of mini CCs that you can actually use for IBeam, so you're not really getting a full casted IBeam. Has some good damage, can play a bit more builds. I'm thinking it's either A or A plus, but do I think it's better than ARMS? I think it's on the same level, so I'm going to put it on the same level. They have a lot of counters though. I think hunters are not that cool for DHs in general. They have a lot of AoE damage if the enemy lets them like hit multiple times, like in multi-hit situations. But yeah, I think it's going to be 8 here. Holy Priest. Now we have a few healers. Holy Priest is for me A plus. I think it's very strong. It has some good solid damage. Has a lot of CDs actually. It's a bit weird how it plays because you kind of don't want to spend too much mana on healing. You want to actually let them lose HP and then like use your bigger heals to actually heal them through instead of overhealing because you're going to overheal most of the time. So you want them to lose HP to then heal. It's a bit weird because you don't want to be preventive, you want to be reactive. But it works. I think it has a lot of damage on Holy Fire. They can actually finish games. It's actually hard to kick mind games because again they had shadow. They don't cast any shadow healing spells, so don't get a lot of benefits from that. again, it's very annoying to deal with. I think for me it's going to be A plus. I think Holy Paladin they're going to be S tier. I think um, over time we do see that Holy Paladin is probably just the better healer right now. They have tools that can stop goes pretty reliantly. That's why for me, Arms Warrior cannot be higher than A because you have a lot of Holy Paladins, you have a lot of Elemental Shamans, you have a lot of balanced druids, and all of them are actually very hard to deal with as an Arms Warrior. Double Bop and also sacrifice every single go is fantastic. It actually helps a lot, and just for that reason, I think Arms Warrior is going to suffer big time versus a Holy Paladin, and Holy Paladin is just like a S tier spec in general. Because of that. Hunter, they got a few buffs. Not really impressed, let's say. Uh, their CC. Whenever I see Hunters perform, they don't really CC the heals. They CC the DPSs to actually gain a bit of traction and to kite effectively. I would say. Um, hmm, hmm. It's very hard to judge them. Going to be honest. Do I judge them as good as a demonology warlock or as good as a PM hunter? I'm going to put it in as a BM hunter here. The reason is I think it's stoppable. I think it has poor defensives. It has some good peel, but then you have to sacrifice the CC that you can do on a healer. I think it's easier to stop than you would think. They have good damage, but somehow the damage doesn't stick too much for some reason. At least whenever I try to play MM, it doesn't feel good. But whenever I see MMs on my lobbies, I'm not really that scared. Maybe it's because I'm playing like a few specs that are actually quite good versus MM. Also, a disarm is very much a death sentence for MM in general. Getting disarmed on their go is something that can actually happen, and yeah, I think for me it's going to be B tier. Mistweaver, I think it's A plus. You have Mistweaving, which is getting a resurgence. It's actually possible to lose versus them. It's very strong. Caster Mistweaver is actually very strong depending on the lobbies. They can suffer versus like range interrupts, and that those lobbies are really bad for them. But they have great CDs to use. They have raid wide CDs to use, and they can actually win games because of that. The throughput is also fantastic. I think Mistweaver that can actually just free cast is always going to top someone, dampening or not. So for me, it's going to be A plus because of that. Of course, you can counter it with multiple specs, multiple ways to play around the Mistweaver. If you can go on the Mistweaver whenever the Life Cocoon is on CD, well, you can maybe kill them, but it depends on where they put the TP, where they can actually kite, and if they can kite effectively. So for me, it's going to be A plus. I know it's maybe not a popular take, but I think personally, whenever I'm seeing Mistweaver, I'm actually quite scared compared to other healers. Outlaw Rogue, guys, I don't know what you're talking about. For me, it is not S tier. If I want to say a thing, for me it's going to be B tier. But only remember, it's going to be only B tier if you actually get the PvE weapons that have procs. If you don't have that, it is C tier. The damage is really not high. I think it's like a CC bot. You're reliant on your allies. Climbing with it is hell. I would not recommend. I think you can make it work if you have intelligent people to play with, and you can actually like win games because of that. But remember, in lobbies where you have to solo carry, Outlaw Rogue will not do that. You can be a poison for the enemy team. Yes, you can gouge, you can kidney, you can blind. You can pretty much like be annoying to the enemy team, but I don't think it's like a playstyle that is really going to carry games. For me, I'm going to be harsh. For me, it is a blood decay, but it is much more killable. It has the same kind of damage. It has the same kind of CC that a blood decay can also do. They can actually survive a blood decay. Blood decay can actually survive. They can grip people away again to be annoying to the second DPS. Auto Rogue feels not that good, and I don't understand why people say that Auto Rogue is S tier. For me, it is nowhere near S tier. You just have to see on the ladder, and no, there is no secret thing. There is no secret build, secret spec. Blood DK, for example, is not secretly OP because the ladder representation is not there. Frost DK is not secretly OP because the ladder representation is not there, and still Frost DK has more representation than Outlaw Rogue. So how dare you say that Frost DK is bad, for example? Again, we can go on and on and on and on about that. But I don't think Outlaw Rogue is very strong. I think it's very annoying to deal with. In castle lobbies, I think Outlaw Rogues is just probably better than other specs because they have mobility, because they have the annoyance, because they have again the CC that they can do to actually stop them casting, and whenever they don't cast, they don't do damage. But I don't think it's that strong, and I can understand. I mean, AWC, it was picked and it was played. It has nothing to do with it. Soul Shuffle has nothing to do with AWC. You don't play with a rank 1 booby every single game. You don't play with a rank 1 partner every single game. You're not playing to not lose. You're playing to win in Soul Shuffle. In AWC, you play to not die, pretty much. That's how it plays, AWC. Retribution Paladins, we didn't see in AWC. Does it mean that it is a C tier or D tier spec? No. Everyone knows that Retribution Paladin is very, very strong, but for some reason they use that logic for Outlaw Rogue to be strong in S tier, A tier, or whatever. This isn't just not a good logic. Just drop it. AWC is not the same as Soul Shuffle, and Soul Shuffle is not the same as AWC. Heck, Soul Shuffle is not the same as 3s and 2s, so why compare, right? Preservation Evoker for me is going to be personally the second best healer. I think it's very strong. I think it has a lot of CDs. They can actually keep a lot of their allies alive. They have damage. They have good CC with Sleepwalk. It can get countered again because there is a Tremor Totem or whatever, but they have like also an option to heal the whole group when CC'd with Communion. So you have ways to win games. You have also a Dispel. You are the Bane for Rest Druid. So me Evoker, very mobile as well. I think it's just very, very strong. Protection Warrior, I'm going to put it in B tier as well. I might just put it like that because again, I think pure DPS are always going to be better than tanks. I think Protection Warrior is actually secretly viable. Again, I'm going to use your reasoning behind Outlaw Rogue. It is secretly good because no one is playing it, but for some reason they have like 2 rogues that are actually very good. Anyways, Protection Warrior, it's secretly viable because if you're landing in a melee lobby, you're going to wreck that lobby 6-0. That's just how it is, because Bodyguard is a PvP talent that reduces your allies' physical damage dealt to them by 40% and transfer to your health. It's strong because you can actually just stop damage. It's a damage reduction wall that you can put like permanently on your ally if they don't walk away from the minimum yards of Bodyguard. It's really strong, but you can also have very bad lobbies, which is often caster lobbies. If you don't want to trust me, just play Protection Warrior. Try to play the builds that I'm playing. For example, I made a guide about it, which is often paired up with like big burst, and I can do like 100k, 100k, and then let's say I have an execute proc, I do a 90k, and I do crit. It does a lot of damage, for example. It can really burst very hard. The consistent damage is quite low, but you can still do some okay damage. For example, my Protection Warrior lobbies, often I am like top 3, top 2 damage, but also I have a lot of like healing, but also a lot of protection that I do give to other allies. But whenever you're playing castle lobbies, those are the lobbies that you should just drop and forget about it. But I think it's viable. It's not good. For example, the higher you go on the B tier, it means that it is good. For example, Fury, Frost Decay, Enhance, it's good. I think Outlaw Rogue, Blood Decay, and Protection Warrior are viable. And the same for Affliction. I think Affliction is viable. I think BM and MM is good, for example. Protection Paladin. I'm not going to judge it too much because you're playing Protection Paladin versus Protection Paladin. I'm going to put it in D tier. If it wasn't the case, I would put it higher. But since you're playing always the same spec versus the same spec, it's very hard to judge. It nullifies themselves. So I'm going to put it D tier for that reason. Resto Shaman, I think it's A tier. I think it's good. It can actually like win a lot of cost lobbies. Melee lobbies are quite hard though. But since there are more classes these days, in my opinion, at least it feels like that, it has a legit shot to win. They have purge, they have damage, they have healing, they have CDs. It's limited though. People also know and have to be aware of Earthen Wall Totem, but you can always like project them towards them. In general, you can have a great time as a resto shaman, but you have to play accordingly and try to play for your strengths. You can disrupt a lot of the enemy team because of that. Resto druid, I think it's the worst healer. I'm going to put it here. The reason is you're kind of passive. You depends on your teammates to win games, and I don't like that playstyle at all. If you are like depending on your teammates to actually do something, um, it's a bit bad. I want to play Resto Druid. I want to play more healers to actually showcase them to my channel. If you want to check that out, please do subscribe to the channel. But Resto Druid, you can play aggressive by raking, cycloning, and such. The problem is if you're getting caught, you either die or get locked out. And if you get locked out, you don't heal. And if you don't heal, people die. So it's very, very hard to play Resto Druid these days. In twos, it's a fantastic spec. So it's very hard to actually buff Resto Druids consistently because depending on the bracket, depending on what game mode you're playing, Resto Druid is actually good. For example, in BGs, it's not bad. In twos, it's actually very, very strong. In threes, it is possible to regen mana. So you have games that are a bit better, but it's not fantastic. In Soul Shuffle, it's just dreadful, for example. So very hard to judge them as themselves instead of like per bracket. But anyways, I think for me it's going to be underpowered, and even in 10.1.7 I don't feel like they're going to be very strong. Retribution Paladin is going to be do I put it A plus or S tier? Looking, I'm going to put it in A plus. Because I'm thinking about like one other spec just straight better than Retribution Paladin. I think they have like the fantastic toolkit to performing Soul Shuffle. Having a Bob, having a Divine Shield, having the Shield of Vengeance, which is a big shield, and also it pops and does a lot of damage. Your damage is mostly ranged as well now. So you can actually do a lot of damage even though you're kited, while for example Armfire cannot do that. They have freedom and they can decide who to freedom to get the second freedom. They have difficulties in casted lobbies, but they have ways to survive compared to other specs. They have bad lobbies, but again, they have probably more and more good lobbies. They have like auto dispel, so you can basically just auto dispel versus elemental shaman. So that's a good thing because then you cannot get like destroyed by that. Um, Although control of lava does a lot of damage, again, it's better to get a 60k than let's say a 150k lava burst. So I think it's a quick math situation. But A plus is probably deserved because it's also the most popular spec with also a lot of representation on the ladder. So just maths and the ladder checks out. Shadow Priest, I think it's going to be A plus. I think it's not S tier anymore. It is stopped. It suffers versus like a few specs on the A tier, for example. Armsword is suffer versus that. Feral Druid is also very hard to deal with it as Shadow Priest, but they have also a lot of like good comps that they can play in. I think every single lobby is actually a good lobby for Shadow Priest, depending on situation. You have also Mass Dispel, which is insane versus a lot of specs. You can actually like kill a Holy Paladin pretty reliably if you know what you're doing. They're going to Divine Shield and then you're going to Mass Dispel from the get-go, and you can actually do some good things with it. For me, it's going to be A+. I don't think it's better than Elemental Shaman, but I think it's also not on the same level as a Mage spec, for example, in those two Warlock specs. Sub Rogue, I'm going to still put it in S tier because it is very special. It can win games by themselves, but it can also lose the games by themselves, and can also lose because of allies. CC is there, so people are talking about CC with Outlaw Rogue. Well, Sub Rogue has the same CC. They also have reliable dance. Like you can play like one dance, you can play two dance. You can play one-shot build. You can also play like more of a consistent damage build, although I would not do that. Do not do that. Just play the one-shot builds. You can win games because of a shadowy duel. You can win games because of a smoke bomb. You're very slippery. You're you're tanky. You're probably more tanky than a lot of tanks in the game, because you have double vanish, and you can also play with the shield on vanish. So if you really, really do not want to die and you feel like you need that extra oomph, you can play vanish on the shield with vanish, and you're pretty much unkillable at that point. You regen some HP every time you're vanishing, every time you're shadow dancing. So for me, it's going to be S tier, reliably. Survival Hunter, I'm going to put it in A plus. I know. You're going to say, why are you putting in this A plus? It does crazy damage. It has good CC. I think it has better CC than most hunter specs because it has reliable grip. You can grapple and then freezing trap, which you can play a diamond eye so it doesn't get broken. Which has the same duration as a normal trap, so why not do that? I think in general, Survival Hunter has a lot of damage. Yes, you will have to learn how to survive. That's pretty much the only thing that makes them A plus. If you know how to survive, then they are A plus. If you do not know how to survive, it feels like it's very bad. But I really feel like Survival Hunter is very good, and the video is actually very long. I'm very sorry, but I have a lot of things to actually discuss on this video. Unholy Decay is going to be, I don't know. Should I put it in A plus or A? It has good lobbies though. It has good lobbies. Elemental Shaman has a bit of struggles versus DKs because they cannot stack the field totem them reliably because they can just walk away with deaths advance. I'm going to say A plus because of the meta. I think they nerfed the damage. They did that, and it's very annoying. But they have CC. They have good consistent damage, which can then get improved because of like cities you can use. Does it feel super fun? Kind of feel fun, but it can also feel just like a bad version of an Unholy Decay compared to other expansions. But I feel like just in general, you have good lobbies, you have good castle lobbies that you can win. Your damage is mostly casted now, like ranged one, I would say. So you can actually do a lot of damage and have a lot of uptime. The closer you are, the better it is, of course. I think since it is that kind of meta, I think it's deserving A plus. I do feel like it's on the same level as Survival Hunter. I think Unholy Decay is still very strong. I know I can understand that people can say, "Oh, look, Unholy Decay got nerfed a few times. We'll put it lower," but I think you just have to see the meta and how the meta evolves. You cannot really see a spec in a vacuum. That's not possible. Vengeance Demon Hunter, I'm going to put D tier. I don't think it's very strong. I didn't see anyone playing Vengeance Demon Hunter, and I don't see any videos, any streams about it in Arena, so there is really no information about it, so I'm going to put it in D tier. Windwalker is going to be S tier. Do I need to say it's probably the better version than an Arms Warrior? It has better lobbies, has better defensives. Doesn't need to kite anymore. Does a lot of damage with Fist of Fury. They can do a lot of damage with Rising Suncake at all times. If they put Serenity, you're in big trouble, for example. Touch of Karma is annoying to deal with, but still, it's there. You have a lot of like those good CDs that you can use compared to like an Arms Warrior. And for me, it is probably the best melee in the game. Augmentation Evoker, I'm going to put it in A plus. I do feel like it is, but you need to know how to play and how to play support. I think it's very hard to judge them, but I think it's very annoying. It can create 300k with upheaval, does a lot of damage. It has crazy combos. I think it is a better spec than Devastation by a mile, and that's why I'm putting in A plus because actually, Augmentation Evoker is everything that Devastation Evoker would have liked to be. That's pretty much how I can say and how I can actually describe it. I'm going to change a few things. I do feel like Elemental Shaman is going to be S tier then. Top two classes would be Balance Druid, Elemental Shaman, and then you have Shadow Priest, Augmentation Evoker. For melees, I think it's correct. You have Windwalker, Sub Rogue, then you have Retribution, Survival, and Holy Decay. Then you have like Arms, DH, and Feral Druid. The mage specs, I think I am correct on that, but might be A plus. But I'm going to put it in A because I'm thinking about elemental shaman being there, and that kind of stops them the same way as the arms warrior actually gets stopped by casters and holy paladins, for example. Um, yeah, I think that's the correct tier list, at least in my mind. Again, every single tier list has some bias. I'm going to say every single tier list has some bias. People just don't get that a tier list cannot be another way. If you're like an arms warrior main, of course every single caster will feel very, very strong and better than arms warrior. If you are like a Frosty K main, you will feel like arms warrior are S tiers because they can just stop your damage and they are physical and they are actually very, very hurty. If you are like, let's say, a affliction warlock, you will detest arms warrior as well because they can also eat you. If you're a shadow priest, the same for arms warrior. If you are like an assassination rogue, you're going to say, huh, every single spec is better than yours. But you have to see it like as a whole and try to make a tier list for that. It's not very easy. It's not an easy thing to do, especially since the videos are so long. Sometimes you misspoke something, or something is not really understandable for the viewers. That's why I invite you guys to watch the whole video. I watch and also to comment your thoughts step by step. You can also edit your comments and try to make it like the most complete comment possible so I can actually respond to it. Again, we can agree to disagree, but I think this is pretty much the social full tier list for now in 10.1.5. I think that's a final tier list for probably a long time because 10.1.7 doesn't seem like they're going to do a lot of balancing changes. But anyways, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Be sure to stay safe. We'll catch you probably very soon in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.